and 7 Spanish angels took another angel home.
Hey, I'm Willie Nelson, and you're watching HempRock TV.
We don't run, and we don't compromise, we don't quit, we never do.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Master Sergeant Tony Vance, the voice of Freedom's Voice. Tonight, let's talk about voting against yourself. While preparing to write a piece on the comparing Republican and Democratic positions for the upcoming elections, I came to the realization that the question may be debated in terms of Democratic or Republican, but the debate is essentially this: should we face the challenges of the future with our eyes wide open to the options available, or should we shrink from the challenge, resort to old and sometimes failed policies when tackling the problems facing the future? Conservatives believe in things remaining the same. Health insurance is a good example of this. Every time reform to our healthcare systems comes up, conservative Republicans oppose it. They have a plan for reforming healthcare. They offered as a counterproposal to the single-payer plan favored by the Democrats and used in most modern countries. The Affordable Care Act is the Republican plan. When Democrats saw this type of plan working in Massachusetts, it had been implemented under then-Governor Mitt Romney, Republican governor. Democrats adopted it as a way to get everybody health care across the nation. Considering it was, and control cost, and considering it was the Republican plan, Democrats figured passing it should not be a problem. Surely the Republicans wouldn't be against their own plan. Surprise, surprise. Republicans repudiated their own plan and vociferously began opposing it, derisively calling it Obamacare. It seems that political opposition trumps not only the welfare of the country, but Republicans' own ideas. Republicans have shown if they're elected, they will continue the policy of trickle-down economics and austerity. You know, give money to rich people and they will invest it, and then it'll come down to you eventually someday, maybe in the future, possibly. But that don't happen. What happens is people put it to you this way. If you had a factory selling scissors and you couldn't sell all the scissors coming out of factory number 1, you are not going to take that money and build factory number 2. However, if you give that money to the poor and they're going to start spending on things they need, or maybe just a better brand of toilet paper, there's going to be a demand there, and you're going to be able to build a factory to fill that demand. It's the exact opposite of supply and demand. Supply side economics is what, since Reagan, we've had. And it's the main reason the wealth gap is 80 miles long, you know. The richest of the rich and the poorest of the poor. And we can do something about that if we just choose to. You know, at the same time they give these huge tax cuts to corporations and stuff, they are also following the plan of weakening the federal government so it can't regulate the harms of big business, you know, unfettered capitalism. That shrinks the government and they get rid of government services, and, you know, that's better for them. Then they're not interfered with making money. Basically, that's it. Republicans have made no secret of their disdain for our government and will certainly pursue policies that reflect as much. Again, this kind of thing started with Reagan. He went around saying crap like, well, if you have a problem, the last people you want to call is the federal government. Why? They made our government their enemy. Why we continually elect people to government who hate government is beyond me. Republicans at both the state and federal level will continue voter ID and voter suppression. They'll push anti-abortion laws, which, for all you people screaming about freedom, puts the government in control of what happens when a woman gets pregnant instead of the woman herself. And if that ain't anti-freedom, I don't know what is. They will already. Mitch McConnell has said, because of the Trump tax cuts that were passed, McConnell said not long after that, and I saw him say it, that they would, I think we're going to have to cut Social Security and Medicare. Yep. Oh, because of the deficit, which they just created by giving away all that damn revenue. They'll continue to push austerity, cut Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, anything they can get their hands on. Because the whole idea is to get the money. Reagan started this shit. Excuse my language. Reagan started this stuff. Big tax cuts for the wealthy. The wealthy donate tons of money to support him. So Republicans get reelected so they can do another tax cut and reward their donors. And meanwhile, the poor and the middle class end up paying for the government. Because those tax cuts shift the cost of government where it has traditionally been with the wealthy to the poor and middle class, which is where you used to be able to support a family of 4 working 40 hours a week. Now you can't do that. It takes 2 people in the family better be working, and one of them better have a part-time job, and they're barely getting by. Where in the hell did all that wealth or buying power go? It went to the wealthy. When they cut taxes for the wealthy, somebody's got to pay for the government. Guess what? It's the poor and middle class. I mean, they opposed raising the minimum wage. The minimum wage is what, 7 1/4? How in the hell is anybody supposed to live on that? It's been 7 1/4 forever. What insane person in government keeps stopping the raising of the minimum wage? Actually, given growth over the last 30, 40 years, the minimum wage should be about $22 an hour. And it's not. Republicans would move to limit unemployment. They already did that. The second COVID bill has $600, like the first one did, has $600 for unemployment for people who are unemployed, on top of whatever they get from their state. That's a good thing. Well, one of the reasons they said they held up the bill, the Republicans did in the Senate, was because they wanted to cut that down to $200. They'll give millions of dollars to corporations and businesses, but they'll bitch over $600 for a poor person. The hell's the matter with them people? Democrats, rather than redo the past, believe in moving the country forward. They're not called progressives for nothing. Their willingness to adopt the Republican healthcare plan is a good example of this. It was working in mass. It cut costs. It covers everybody. So Democrats supported it, by Republicans, as you now know, unable to explain why they opposed it. Democrats are more likely to support diplomacy in dealing with our enemies and our allies where practicable. A treaty is far less destructive than boots on the ground and costs a lot less. Democrats will push for a more inclusive economy based on supply and demand, increasing the buying power of the poor and middle class. Doing that, getting money into the hands of people who will spend it, rather than those who will put it in some offshore account or pay it back out in dividends. That will grow the economy, create demand, and when that demand is satisfied, it will create the jobs that Republicans have been promising since forever. That'll create jobs. We'll give the rich people money. They'll invest it. But they don't. And you can't blame them. You wouldn't build a second factory. You couldn't sell crap coming out of the first. But one can see it's a clear choice. Forward or back. Grow the economy and let the economic power of the federal government help, or curtail the economic power of the federal government and make it inefficient in reining in the excesses and social inequity of the free market. For me, the choice is easy. I make less than $300,000 a year, and voting Republican is voting against my best economic interests. I wonder how many who make less than $300,000 a year will vote against themselves in the next election. It never ceases to amaze me. A guy will vote into office, a politician who will take money from him and his family based solely on the notion that the government is going to come take away his guns, which actually ain't going to happen. Or any other number of ridiculous notions ginned up by those who work to con poor people into voting against themselves. This time the choice of who to vote for is easy. This time I'm voting for myself. My life will be improved if I vote Democratic this time. It will not be improved if I vote Republican. Matter of fact, it might be less than that. They've already come after VA disability once or twice with some little hot suggestions of how to cut down on what veterans get when they're disabled. Why do rich people begrudge poor people getting ahead, getting a sprout? You know? Oh, it's not called welfare when we give it to corporations. It's investing in the future. You give it to poor people. Oh, they don't deserve it. Let's take it away. I don't understand that. We could lift the boats of everybody and end abject poverty in America. We only have to choose to do so. One party wants to do that and the other doesn't. You can vote for who you want. I'm voting for the one that wants to lift all the boats and not just the yachts. This time, I'm voting for myself. Get out there and vote. See you next time.
Hi, I'm Willie Nelson, and the Willie Nelson Teapot Party and I endorse Veterans for Medical Cannabis Access.
Just roll me up and smoke me when I